Hello my friend, welcome to my channel Faisal Azib. I hope that you are well. In this video, you are gonna learn how to retrieve data from an object and also how to change data in object using both the dot and the bracket notation. So let's actually get the object here from our previous video. So that's Faisal object. And I noticed that we actually didn't even take a look at it. And a console, so I will add it to the console.log. Let's quickly log it. Console.log Faisal. Okay, but we are actually not gonna see a big surprise. So let's see. So all it shows us is it is really the same object that we just wrote in the code. So it looks like this, as you can see. Okay. So this is really just as it is here in the code. The only thing that is different is that the properties here are ordered alphabetically, as you can see. And so that's what I mean when I said in the last video that the order of properties does not matter. And that's because we simply get the properties from the object using the property name itself. So that's actually the topic of this video. And so let me show you the two ways in which we do that. So the first way of getting a property from an object is by using the dot notation. And that is very straightforward. So let's log that to the console. And so let's say that we want to get the last name. Okay? So all we have to do is to write Faisal, okay, dot, and after this the last name, and that is it. Let's see this result. As you can see, so here it is my last name coming straight from the Faisal object. So Faisal dot last name. And this dot here is actually an operator which will go to this object and then retrieve to property with the name that we specified here. Now, we can do the exact same thing using the bracket notation. So let me show that as well. So let's write console.log again, or I just copy paste this one. So Faisal. Okay, then we use the brackets in similar way in which we retrieve data from an array, but here we need to specify a string with the property name. So with the k, so let's do my last name. Okay, last name. I forgot to use a camel case here. I will just do it very quickly. It is last name with an uppercase and here an uppercase, here an uppercase. Good. Let's go back to our topic. So let's see the result. Good. So this result should be exactly the same here. Now, the big difference between these two here is that in the bracket notation here, we can actually put in any expression that we would like. So we don't have to explicitly write the string here, but instead we can compute it from the sum operation, because remember that an operation is basically an expression. So something that produces a value, and so we can put that here inside the brackets. So let's actually try that. And imagine that we have the variable in which we store the repeating part in the first name and last name. So we have here what we have, a name here in both, and so let's store just that inside of variable. And you will see my point here. In a second, this will make sense. Trust me. So I will write new variable const name k, okay, and then just put here name. Okay, good. So again, that's the repeating part in this to property name. Okay, first name and last name. And now we can use that variable to get both the first and the last name. So let's do this. So console.log and then Faisal and then brackets. Okay, after this, now here we can insert the expression. So let's create a string first. Okay, and then concatenate with the name key like this. And here we could have built this string using a template tutorial, but in this case it is not really necessary. So let's just copy this and then also do it for the last name. Take last name, so last here. Okay. So what will happen here is that as JavaScript see this line of code, it will start by executing this plus operation, and so it will create a string first name. And then it will go to the Faisal object and retrieve that property, and the same for the last name here and the second line of code. So let's see this. And so that's how we get Faisal and Azib. And doing something like this is more common than you may think. And so that's why it is important that we understand that in the square brackets, we could put any expression here. Okay? Now the same thing will not work with the dot operator or the dot notation. So we cannot write Faisal. I just copy this one or this one. Let's copy what you want. This one. So we cannot write Faisal dot and then here I put last. After this I put name key. Okay, this one will not work. Okay, and as you can see I have this unexpected string. And so that's the reason why we need the bracket notation and dot notation. Okay, so I will just comment this code. So we have to use the real final property name and not a computed property name. So for example, this one is a real property name as it appears in the object, and so that's why it works here in this case. Okay, so in what situation should we use the dot notation, and when do we have to use deep bracket notation? And I kind of already replied to that, but this is just a recap. Okay, so when we need to first compute the property name, like we did here with the first and last name, then of course we have to use the bracket notation in any other case. Just use the dot notation, which looks a lot cleaner and it is also easier to use. Okay? And now, to make the need for the bracket notation even more clear, let me show you another example, which I think it's gonna be really fun. So let's say that we don't know yet which property we want to show, and instead we get this information from some user interface. So for that we can use the prompt function. Okay, remember we can use this function, and prompt is yet another built-in function that is built into JavaScript and that we can use in any script. So here we can write string and then this will create a pop-up window with an input field. Remember, so here we can write, for example, what do you want to know about Faisal. Choose between first name, last name, age, job, and friends. Okay? And remember that this function will then return a string, and this string we just need to store it into some variable. So let's call this string, for example, interested, for example, interested. Okay? And to start, let's just log this interested in value. Oops, console.log interested. Just check to see if it works or no. Okay? So let's do this. I need a job. Good. It works. And so here it is with this pop-up. You just write what we want, the options that you want, and you got the desired information. And so what we want to do now is to basically display the job here in the console, because that's what the user choose. So how we will do that? Can we use the dot notation? So basically, can we do this? Console.log Faisal.interested. Can we do this? So if I reload, if I put job, what I got, as you can see, I get undefined, and this is something new that I didn't explain yet. And so let me tell you now what that undefined is. What we get when we try to access a property on an object that does not exist. I repeat, here I got undefined. In the case when we try to access a property on an object that does not exist. So Faisal does not have a property called interested in, right? And so therefore the result of trying to access interested in on Faisal is undefined. Now what we need to do here is, instead of the dot notation, use the bracket notation. Oops, I am here, bracket notation, like this. Okay, because then we can put any expression here, which in this case will be interested. And so JavaScript will now come here and replace interested with the actual value of the variable, and then that's the one that will be looked up on the Faisal object. So let's try that again. Job. Good. Now when I say job, we get correct result. And I hope that you did understand the big difference between using the dot notation and the bracket notation, and why the bracket notation gave us the correct result. So again, it is because basically this expression that we put here between these brackets will get evaluated. Then this one here is a job. Now of course we can also pass in something else. So something that is not here. Okay, so let's do that. For example, I want to access a location. Okay, it is not in the Faisal object. Okay, we get undefined, and once more, this is because there is not a property called location on the object. So let's actually handle that using some knowledge that we already have. So we know that undefined is a false value, right? Remember, you can see the video about false and true value. And we can use that to our advantage now and create some logic that we will print a custom string whenever the user tries to access a property that doesn't exist. So let's do that. And we can say if Faisal here interested, okay, and here I will log to the console. I will log Faisal interested. The same thing what I did do before. Okay. And again, I'm using now the Alt arrow down to move this line. I can do it, as you can see. This shortcut. So you use Alt plus arrow. Oops, sorry. Alt plus arrow to move this line. It is a new shortcut that I want to show you if you want to move any line of code. And so if this value exists, then it is a truth value because it is not undefined. And so any string that is not empty or any number that is not 0, we then trigger this code. Okay? Now, if one of these properties was actually empty or 0, we will then go to the else block. But let's not account for that here in this case. Let's say that doesn't happen. All right. So in case that the value does not exist, so for example with location, we then get undefined, and so in this case Faisal interested is undefined, which is false, and therefore we will go to the else block. And so let's say something like, for example, I will put in the else wrong request, for example, or anything like this. Okay, so console.log, and here I will put a wrong request, and I repeat, for example, choose between this one. I repeat this sentence. Okay, like this. Good. So let's try that again. And here I put location. And now we get one request, but if we try something that exists, so for example, I put first name. Good. We get the result. So I think this was a fun little experiment here, and now I hope you like that. And now that you know how to retrieve element from an object, let's also learn how to use both the dot and the bracket notation to add the new properties to the object. And so that's pretty straightforward. So all we have to do is Faisal. Oops. Always I am in the Chrome. Faisal. After this I put dot, and now let's actually use location. Okay, and set it equal to something, to some value. So I am located in France, and so that's how we use the dot notation. And then we can also, of course, use the bracket notation just the same. So let's say, for example, let's say I want to handle my Instagram, so Faisal, and here brackets, and I will put here Instagram. Oops. Instagram. Okay. And here I will put Faisal.Chico. What I have to do here? No, sorry. No, sorry, what I have to do here? Look, I have white, the worst thing here. So just, I want the property Instagram like this, equal Faisal Chico. Okay, so, and now to see this this update, if it works or no, let's log Faisal in the console again. So I will just copy this one, put it here. Okay, and I reload. I write the job very quickly. Okay, so, and now, as you can see, what I have the location and Instagram here as well in the object. And of course, here Instagram, we could put in expression just like before, huh? So it works in the exact same way. Alright, and that's how we use the brackets and the dot notation. Now, finally, I have one small challenge for you that you can just do right now here at the end of this video. And so what I want you to do is to write a sentence like this one that I am going to show you now, but in dynamic way. So let's just write a challenge here. Okay. Oops. And so I want you to write Faisal has 3 friends. Oh, sorry, 3 friends. And his best friends, all of them, don't worry my friends, is called Karim. Okay, so here we suppose that the first friend in the array, so in the friends array, is the best friend, okay? And for the record, I do have more than the 3 friends, but of course, here we need to keep it all very simple. So again, I want you to write this sentence, but without hard coding any of these values. So, what you need to get from the object is this value Faisal, this value 3, and this value Karim. And this is actually a bit hard, I would say. And so there is absolutely no need for you to nail this, but you can still try it and maybe you can do some of the part. One hint that I can give you is that you will need to use multiple dots to get the number of friends. Okay? So that's totally possible. And so take like 5 minutes to try this out now. So pause the video and I will see you in a second. Alright. And so this is how we will do this. So we want to log this to the console, of course. So console.log. And here I have complex expression, so I will use complex literal. And now we are starting with the name. Okay, and this one is probably the most straightforward one. So that's just Faisal. Remember. Okay. Dot first name. Okay, it's very easy. So let's do this. Faisal dot first name. After this, what we have here, we have a number of friends. So the friends are stored in the Faisal.friends. Now, do you remember how to get the number of elements in an array? It is by writing the array.length, right? And so let's do that. So has, and here I will open. So Faisal dot friends, okay, and so in this array we can now ask for the length. So dot length. Good. These friends, we continue, and so basically you can see here that the length is also a property that is available on all arrays. So it is property that we don't define ourselves, but it is automatically available. But now that you know about the dot notation, you can also start to understand that the dot length is just a property that is available on arrays. And so that's what we are doing here. So again, we have an array, which is this one. And on there, we can simply then request dot length. Okay? Let's continue the sentence now. And his best friend is called. Now, that's again Faisal dot friends. Faisal dot friends. Okay, and now remember, we get the first element of an array using the square brackets 0. Okay, like this. So simple. Oops. Okay, so once more, this is here is simply an array, and so we learned that to take the first element, we just use square brackets with 0. So, in a sense, on arrays, we also have the bracket notation. Okay, so let's test this. Of course, we write what we want. Good. Again, this is no problem. Indeed, Faisal has 3 friends, and his best friend is called Karim. So just what I had written here as a template. Now, in terms of operator proceeding, let's quickly check out why it actually works this way. So with the dot here, because remember, as I said, the dot operator here is really just that it is just an operator, and the same goes for the brackets. So I will again Google this. So MDN, I have direct access to the website that we have seen in the previous video. I go to the table here. Okay, so here where is the dot notation? There is it, member access. Okay, and then we have the bracket notation. It's compute member access. Okay, and so the computed is because, as I mentioned multiple times now, because we can compute the property names that we want to access. Now, what matters here is that they both have really high priority, and both are left to right. And so that's why all of this works. So we have 2 dots here. So Faisal.friends.length, and they are executed left to right. And therefore, the first thing that JavaScript does is Faisal.friends. And so essentially, this will then be replaced with the array, and then on that array is where the dot length is then applied. And the same thing here. So first Faisal.friends is done. And then this one is also left to right. And so from there we take element number 0. Okay. So there is no magic involved here. There is rules for everything, and everything makes sense. And again, you don't need to memorize this here. With time, all of this will become second nature to you. Thank you so much, brothers, to follow this video until this, follow this course until this video. I hope that you understand why when we use the dot, when we use brackets. We'll continue, inshallah, with object method in the next video, inshallah. Take care of us. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my channel, Faisal Azib. I tell you goodbye. Wassalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.